We'll now have our last keynote address for this particular segment, and he goes by the name of Mr. Masonwabe Fuma, who is an associate director at ACISA. He is a regular feature on the Skills Development Summit and also the SMME as a speaker. And I mean, his contributions are great and phenomenal. Please don't forget to sanitize or wear your mask if you are in a public space. Mr. Fuma, we're looking forward to hearing from you. Over to you.
Thank you so much. So firstly, before I commence, I think I want to take this opportunity firstly just to appreciate the work that Tabang is doing. I've been following your work, Tabang, for the longest time, especially in areas of SMMEs, empowering and developing young people. I'm a great fan of your work, and I draw great inspiration from you, and you fuel my aspirations. I learn a lot from you, and I really, really appreciate the work that you do. I thought, let me first just give you your flowers before I commence with my task today. I'm part of a generation in this country that is tired of constantly analyzing and diagnosing problems. It's a generation that is constantly seeking out practical solutions, as uncomfortable as some of them may be. I hail from one of the smallest towns in South Africa, namely Ekomane, which is formerly known as Queenstown, out in the Eastern Cape, and one of the most traditional of provinces. I went on to further my education at one of the top universities in Johannesburg, where I studied marketing. So I'm a marketer by qualification, but I currently work as a social entrepreneur. I've taken the baton in this long relay of Africa's development, with some of my work reaching across the continent. So in talking skills, I was actually engaging with a friend of mine about a week ago about the kind of future that we seek to build in South Africa and the kind of skills that are needed in order for us to get there. So for instance, if I have two friends of mine, one comes from a small village just outside of Queenstown in the Eastern Cape, about 40 kilometers away from Queenstown. He studied at one of the mud schools in the village, attaining his matric, and then later moved on to work in Cape Town at one of the agencies as a creative. My friend is very skillful, he's critical when it comes to emotional intelligence, creativity, conflict management, and resolution. And then I have another friend of mine who grew up in the northern suburbs of Johannesburg, in a commercial province of Gauteng, in the economic hub of the country. Attained his education at one of the top schools in the country, and later advanced his education at also one of the best universities in the country. A friend of mine who's a genius when it comes to the internet and coding, which are both skills, and I understand some of the skills that are needed in this era of the fourth industrial revolution. But my first friend, who's good in terms of emotional intelligence and good in terms of managing conflict, where does that then leave him in an era of the fourth industrial revolution? Does he remain relevant in this kind of era? When we talk robotic systems, can robots be called in to assist and mediate in issues of conflict management in organizations? So this beautiful country of ours we call South Africa is at a very interesting place right now, where we are trying to build a future and a country that is technologically advanced and a strong economy that works for its majority. In a future of the fourth industrial revolution, who will be the most suited between my two friends, and which skills do we need to get there? Who will give us these skills, and how do we obtain them? Just yesterday, Stats SA released a report that between April and June this year, about 2.2 million of our people lost their jobs. In this new era that we are living in, which requires digital skills, where are our people supposed to get them? And most importantly, I think, who must provide these skills? We've also learned that the Department of Basic Education has introduced a grade 9 exit certificate as part of their global strategy for those young people who may want to go to SETAs and pursue other skills and careers such as plumbing. But in a country such as ours, where our literacy and numeracy standards are low at the lower grades, could this maybe be a practical solution? I think our basic education is one that has been for the longest time encouraging and producing young people whom I don't think will be effective and productive in bringing us this new society and future that we are trying to imagine and build. Coupled with the various government agencies that are aimed at encouraging business acumen and entrepreneurial mindsets, I don't think with the current methodologies and strategies, we'll be able to realize that future. So how do we begin to create young people whom are problem solvers to the core and who understand that education is meant to empower us and in turn empower our communities and service the African continent? I think we've got to rethink our education as a whole and should be aimed at encouraging behavioral change and producing young people whom are problem solvers. Our education must speak to achieving systematic change and encouraging social urgency, mobility, and encourage young people to different forms of incomes that assist and support them progress in their livelihoods. I think we've got to create young people that have strong entrepreneurial mindset, starting at a basic education level. Our young people must understand that entrepreneurship, or rather our young people must understand entrepreneurship beyond economic management sciences, which is the subject of EMS in high schools. We've got to conscientize young people about our communities, how we access our goods and services, and the mastering of that understanding at an early age so that they can create new supply chains for themselves. Whilst we appreciate the work and informal education done by one of the foundations out in Rwanda with young people and introducing them to entrepreneurship, I think there are many lessons and teachings that we may want to draw there. And one of those would be the bottom of the pyramid theories. Studies show that many poor people, youths and women, are mainly the base in which big businesses thrive. For instance, if you give young people some of your products to sell, they'll definitely do. But such strategies don't have the multiplier effect. So I argue that starting at a school level, we need to conscientize young people about these through education and assist them develop those skills. The National Youth Policy of South Africa, which is coming to an end at the end of this year, and a new draft will be in effect from next year, is also not in par with some of the challenges that many of our young people face. For instance, they encourage entrepreneurship, but instruments that are meant to support young people to become entrepreneurs have not been effective. For instance, recently the 1,000 Entrepreneurs campaign by the National Youth Development Agency was oversubscribed in just weeks, and 1,000 of other applications were pushed aside. This is just one example of a failed government intervention, which, if it was well funded and structured, it would have seen many young people with already existing businesses benefiting from those resources. I further argue that we've got to have programs that are aimed at uplifting small businesses, and they should have a specific focus on youth-run enterprises to thrive. So How do we begin to create skills development in a more formal education? In high schools, we have the subject of life orientation and economic management sciences, essentially EMS, which is not responsive to the many challenges that are faced by young people when they leave school and transition towards higher education and training, and then later towards employment. I think the two subjects arm us with some of the needed knowledge, but need to be tailor-made to address some of life's most pressing challenges of young people, such as financial literacy, savings, and investments, which I think are also skills needed to thrive in this kind of future that we are building. As much as we are taught in the subject of life orientation, Bible studies, and healthcare, I think we've got to include a component of entrepreneurship, where our young people are encouraged to be problem solvers and in turn develop businesses aimed at addressing society's challenges and in turn make profits for marks, which then determine whether you advance to the next grade or not. Such programs also then infuse an entrepreneurial spirit amongst our learners and encourage young people to play a more active and bigger role in addressing some of the socio-economic challenges that our country is confronted with, and can also be job creators. This then also speaks to government also supporting such by developing business policies where our young people can get a payout at the end of their basic education to start businesses from an early age. Businesses should also invest in such programs by funding some of the entrepreneurial initiatives commenced by young people, and also invest their time in the mentoring and coaching of these initiatives. Just imagine how beautiful it would be, for instance, if we were to include entrepreneurship as one of the components of life orientation, creating young people who are financially savvy, who understand investments, and with a problem-solving mindset, and who view challenges as opportunities, develop businesses aimed at addressing society's challenges with support such as business policies that their parents would have then invested in for the longest time and can claim their rewards and payouts at the end of their basic education journey and start these things we call economic instruments. Big businesses also come in and assist in the coaching and mentoring of these young people and their businesses, because nowhere in the history of this world have we seen countries come out of the quagmire without the assistance of big business. I often say that when I graduated with 2 years experience from university and created more than 1,000 employment opportunities within those 2 years, whilst I was still a student. I was part of an entrepreneurial organization that's aimed at curbing socioeconomic disparities that are faced by poor and underprivileged communities. So when we say all shoulders to the wheel, it should be all shoulders to the wheel. That means our universities also have a role to play in assisting in terms of creating and developing these skills that we need to thrive and emerge in this future that we are trying to build. So that means universities have a role to play by being active agents of change, by availing their research and development on critical areas of entrepreneurship as a subject and critical areas of human and communal development. Our institutions of higher learning have got to encourage our students to join these organizations that allow us to implement the theories that they have given us to the implementation of advancing our communities and our people. The crucial skills that we are trained on and get from the organizations are the kind that allow us to use communities-based resources to the advancement of ourselves and our people. And I want to finish off by saying, we will know that we got it right when our young people are financially savvy and the education attained is used to address real-life challenges, encouraging them to be problem solvers with a social agency. We will know that we got it right when we see that our children are more technologically advanced at a primary school level with a social agency and doing more than those before them couldn't do. We will know that we got it right when coding and equally the ability to communicate well and have emotional intelligence are the conversations around our dinner tables at home. We will know that we got it right when we grow a strong economy, which the world can emulate and cite from. We will know that we got it right when our people are living out of shacks and in a more technologically advanced society. We will know that we got it right when we are able to use technology to advance our people, when we are able to work hand in hand with robotic systems through productivity and through some of the challenges that we may face as a people in organizations and in resorting to conflict. Thank you.
Well then, ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Masonwabe Fuma, who is a great contributor to the Skills Development Summit over the years. So thank you very much for reminding us that indeed the fire of the youth is still alive. Thank you for the work that you do. We do know that he's got a marketing agency and he's so young, yet he's doing so much for the community at large. And a young man that is passionate about education. So thank you very much for those thoughts. And we definitely are going to document them and see how we move forward, and we partner with your organization in making sure that young people do prioritize skills development, but most importantly, they do it for the sake of growth, not only for job creation or job identification, or not only for just employment. So thank you very much, Mr. Fuma, for those contributions.